Another ISIS-inspired attack here at home, this time in Orlando. So how do we prevent another one? We'll talk about it on this edition of Tune In.
Hi, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Here's your host, Representative Rick Crawford.
And we are back for another edition of Tune In. I am your host, Rick Crawford, and your representative. Glad you could be with us. And I know everybody has been talking about the events in Orlando that took place over last weekend. And of course, we heard the president's response to the attack. And as usual, he was quick to jump right into the gun control argument. Let's take a listen.
The shooter was apparently armed with a handgun and a powerful assault rifle. This massacre is therefore a further reminder of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot people in a school or in a house of worship or a movie theater or in a nightclub.
We've seen this type of knee-jerk reaction before to legislate a solution in the past from both parties. So you just can't simply pass a bill, wipe your hands together, and then call it good. Particularly not when we're talking about a deep-rooted societal problem that we have here in the form of this ISIS-inspired radical Islamist activity that's taken place. And as with all attacks, the problem really comes down to the individual. It comes down to the person, whether they're mentally ill, whether they've been desensitized, to modern society, or that whether they've become actively radicalized by some sort of hate-spewing agenda like we see in radical Islam. Most of that they receive online, and so that's another issue as well. But most of these people are young, lonely males in the case of Islamic terrorists, or the lone wolf suspects that we've seen in the case of Orlando, are typically second or third generation immigrants, and those who are isolated and not a part of their society, whether it's in the United States, France, or anywhere else. And like many other conservative solutions, I believe that communities themselves actually play a pivotal role in helping solve these societal problems. In fact, most terrorism experts, generals, and other national security professionals agree that assimilating Muslim Americans into the larger society is a huge key in fighting terrorism. But what exactly does that community engagement look like? I was on the air with KSU earlier in the week, and my observation was that rank and file moderate Muslims, they need to step up and play that role in de-radicalization efforts. Listen to what Humaira Khan has to say about this. She's the executive director of Mufluhin. If I said that right, if I didn't, I apologize. It's a think tank whose mission is to thwart terrorism. She's also an advisor to several government agencies, including the FBI. Take a listen.
So, for example, in the U.S., we actually have models where we're running it through imams, right? The actual clergy themselves are engaged with providing counseling, and the counseling is not just for the individual, but also for family members, because sometimes, in some cases, you actually have family dysfunction. In other countries, you actually have intervention programs which are run through the actual family itself. Others are run through different community centers. Anyone who can actually have a trusted relationship with the person, there is an element of trust and there's an element of legitimacy in terms of what they are saying. That person can do it. It could be a youth director, it could be a mentor, there's a lot of options available. It just depends on the case.
Community engagement, both online and in daily life, must be the cornerstone in combating these individuals from changing. We must expose them to other ideas and ways of thinking. So I want to play something else for you. Watch this TED Talk from last year by Prashant Devisar, a graduate student at Notre Dame's Kroc International Institute for Peace Studies and founder of Sri Lanka Unites, a grassroots organization dedicated to stamping out radicalization in his country. Take a listen to this.
What can we do? We're ordinary citizens. What sort of impact could we have? What sort of things do we do from the grassroots, from the bottom up? And so we created a movement of young people that would say no to violence, that we would provide young people the opportunity to have a broader worldview by interactions across ethnic lines. We would give them the opportunity to be mentored by people who love them and care for them and know that they'll sell the right things to them. That would provide a resistance that extremists can't break through. Because extremists can't say, no one else cares about you. We are the only ones. No one will take. But when they know there are mentors out there who speak truth into their lives, who care for them, who are in their lives, there is a resistance. You can break away from the poison and think for yourself.
This problem with lone wolf terrorists, particularly in the United States, is really a complex societal problem. And we have to deal with it by a conservative response, one that has to start in the Muslim community and in the American community, and we can help to assimilate. My call today, if nothing else, is to help rally those moderate Muslims to reclaim their faith. I think that's the only way we're going to be able to make any measurable progress in this war on radical Islamic terror. And that's really what we're fighting here. We're fighting an ideology. Anyway, I appreciate your comments. Again, as usual, you can weigh in if you'd like at TuneIn AR1, at TuneIn AR1. Give us your name and your hometown so we can properly attribute your comments. Same thing on Facebook. We'd like to hear from you. We do occasionally get comments on YouTube as well, and we're happy to respond to those. As you've seen in the past, we do actually respond to some of those comments, and we encourage that. So we look forward to it. And again, thank you for being with us on TuneIn again this week. And here's a look at this week's Vote Check. Have a good one.